Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Arthritis Action Podcast. I'm Mark, your host for today, and I'm also joined by my colleague Leah.
Hi there.
And our special guest today is Catherine Trowmans. Catherine is a registered veterinary nurse and owner of Happy Paws Pet Services in Ely. Hello, Catherine.
Hi.
So today we're talking about pets and arthritis, specifically how to look after your pets when you have arthritis. I know this is something that gets mentioned a lot during our groups, as we've got a lot of people on there who have pets, and a lot of them tend to struggle with the challenges that can arise when you have a pet and arthritis at the same time. So I thought it'd be quite good to have someone well qualified to the job to give us a few tips about what we can do. So Catherine, if you'd like to tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience with pets and arthritis.
Hi. So yes, as Mark said, I'm a veterinary nurse, and about 6 years ago I started getting back pain, and it got progressively worse. About 3 years ago, I was diagnosed with severe arthritis in my hip. Now I'm only in my 40s, so it was quite unusual. But I have now gathered, having read up about it, that actually there's a lot of people my age that do have arthritis, and it's not just something that people get in their old age. So with arthritis, I did find there were struggles with my work and home life. I would struggle with my job as a dog walker. It was very painful to do the dog walks. And eventually I sought help with a consultant and had a hip replacement last year, and haven't looked back really. But I'm fully aware of the struggles that people have when they have arthritis. So yes, I'm happy to be chatting to you today.
Excellent. Thank you very much for coming. Really appreciate it. So let's kick off with then. What are some of the challenges of looking after a pet when you have arthritis?
So I'd say, obviously, for people who have dogs, a big part of looking after your dog is walking them distance and managing their energy levels. So if you've got especially big dogs that require long walks, that can be very difficult for people who struggle with their mobility, and walking distances is painful. So that's one challenge. I mean, obviously, walking is good for you if you've got arthritis, but at the same time, it can be painful. And if you've got a dog with high energy, that's difficult. Even feeding the animals and cleaning out litter trays for cats, obviously, everything's floor level. So that can be also very difficult, getting down to floor level to feed them, clean out litter trays, and sort of caged animals as well, cleaning them out on a regular basis. And if you suffer with arthritis in your hands or your wrists, it's holding those animals securely, so you don't risk injuring them. But yes, there is lots of challenges, and I'm fully aware of the pain that the arthritis brings.
I suppose that kind of leads us on to the next one. So what can sort of people do about some of these things? Like if just bending over or like doing anything with like a dog bowl or your pet bowl or wherever it is.
Yeah, so there's lots of things that people can do. You can place cat bowls you can place on a work surface if the cat is able themselves to get onto a work surface, so that you're not having to bend down. There's lots of different things you can do. There's sort of grabbers that you can use. I mean, it is tricky, but it's asking people for help if you've got friends and family. But if you live on your own, that's obviously a huge challenge. You're having to do everything for that animal yourself. But I would say if you've got friends and family that can help, I would seek their help.
There are a whole selection of gadgets available as well, aren't there? Like
there are,
things like
yeah,
grabbers. Like there's a lot of hands-free leads as well that we've had recommended from some people.
Yeah, if you're really struggling and having a bad day, if you've got a dog, I would recommend you look into having someone available to walk your dog for you if you're having a flare-up or a bad day. There is the Cinnamon Trust, which is a charity which will walk your dog for free if you have financial difficulties. But looking into a decent dog walker who can come and take your dog out if you're having a really bad day. That dog still needs a walk. So, yeah.
Are there any types of animals that would be like, say, if you don't already have one but want to get one, are there any types of animals that would be a good choice for people with arthritis? And I suppose, conversely, are there any that would be perhaps a less than good choice, should we say?
My personal opinion on that is there's no correct answer to this. I'd really say not only depends on the type of arthritis you have and its severity, but also your lifestyle and living arrangements. For one person with osteoarthritis of the hip, their restrictions and abilities will vary wildly to someone with arthritis in their wrists. When considering getting a pet, it's very important to consider the welfare of the animal and make sure that you're physically able to look after the pet you choose and meet all of their needs. You'll need to consider if you have a flare-up or end up in hospital, who will care for the pets. Dogs are a lot harder to find care for because they can't be left for hours on end, so like a cat could. If you do want to get a dog, you must consider the breed of dog, as some need far more exercise and mental stimulation than others. Avoid large, stronger breeds and certainly working dogs that need a lot of stimulation and walking. Obviously, there are therapy dogs out there for people who maybe have underlying conditions or need extra help, but you'd need to speak to obviously your doctor or care provider if you need extra support. Cats are very good pets to own. They're quite independent. Obviously, you need to be able to feed them and clean out litter trays if they're indoors, but they make good companions. Not every cat is a lap cat if that's what you're wanting, but having their presence in the house, they do make good pets. I think as long as you factor in the care that you can give if you suffer with arthritis, everyone likes different animals. Some people like exotic pets. As long as you can provide what they need, I think it's entirely up to you. Some people have allergies, so as long as you can provide the care for that pet, any pet can be a good companion for different people.
Do you think having like especially trainable pets might be quite useful as well? Because like one quite amusing one when we were chatting about pets in a group recently, a lady has I think it might be a Labrador or something like that, but she the dog she's basically trained it to take her socks off for her.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, dogs are intelligent animals. They can do all sorts for you. Some are more trainable than others, I think, and are much more adept at being helpful. But yes, certainly, if you're willing to put the time in and seek help from dog trainers and behaviourists, and you can get them to help you where you need it. Picking things up off the floor, retrieving the post, they can do all sorts for you. I wouldn't say don't get a dog if you're not able to get out and about yourself, but having a dog actually does make you get out of the house, and exercise is very important when you're arthritic. It's you need to be using your muscles, and although it might be a bit painful, gentle walking is actually very good. Gentle exercise. So having a dog will get people to do that, get out of the house.
Yeah, there is always that thing of like like I have it myself with my dog where like there are times when there's no way on earth I want to go out on a rainy or a snowy morning or anything like that,
Yeah.
but you have to do it even if it's only for a short one.
Yeah, definitely. They do make good pets and companions, and it really forces people to get out. Maybe they feel like just staying in bed and they're sore, but it forces them to get out, meet people, and not become insular. And especially for people who live on their own, it's really important that they're getting out and joining the world and not staying shut in all the time.
Yeah, I think that's one thing, that just the support that they can give you, or the emotional support that an animal can give.
Definitely.
Because it doesn't always have to be a dog as well. I know, like when you think of pets, it's always cat or dog. Everyone always thinks of, but like it can be absolutely sort of. Well,
no, from a companionship point of view, I'd say rabbits and guinea pigs can make lovely pets, but do your homework. The two species shouldn't be housed together, and rabbits ideally shouldn't be kept on their own. They need companionship with other rabbits. They also have much more complex care needs than people realise. And I personally think rabbits are certainly not a good child's pet. They need lots of space, and I don't advocate keeping them in hutches. Hutches are too small for rabbits. House rabbits can be litter trained, but do require a lot of cleaning out. So if you do struggle with your mobility, be mindful of this, and also factor in the space that you have within your house or your garden.
You have rabbits yourself, don't you, Leah?
Yes, they're very much like pampered princesses. I think that's how I put it. One of them does actually have arthritis, but they are very sweet. They don't like being picked up from the floor or anything like that. So that's quite easy as well, in order to kind of, you're not having to bend up and down to pick them up or maneuver them. So I'd say that's actually something that's really helpful. Obviously, if you've got to get them to the vets or to take them anywhere, that's a little bit different. But day to day, they're similar to cats, really. They're quite independent and can get on and do their own thing and come to you for attention when they want to.
Yeah, they're interesting little creatures now.
Do you have any tips on how to balance caring for yourself and also caring for the pets at the same time when you're having like a flare up or a rough day because of your arthritis?
Yes, I think I said earlier, it's, for especially for dog owners, I'd say think carefully about what care they can get for their dog in terms of exercise. Consider asking family and friends if they can step in, take the dog for walks when they're unable to. If possible, consider a mobility scooter if this is something that would work for the sufferer and the dog. They don't have to have, if they don't have a strong support network or anyone local who can help, to consider investing time in finding the right dog walker, or even contacting the Cinnamon Trust, or a charity such like it. Other things that you could think of for cats would be maybe a timed feeder if they have biscuits, so that they're not constantly bending down to the floor. So they put the feeder on the floor set for like a couple of days worth of food, and it will just rotate round at certain times, and then you're not having to worry about constantly bending down and up. I think there's just a variety of things that can be done if you do have a flare up, but it's asking for help, I think, is the key thing. It's, if you've got people who can help you, I would reach out and get help.
The timed feeders are an absolute kind of godsend as well, because I mean they're not just for cats. I use mine for my cat, but if you got any animal that's like running around your house, even if you're out for a long time or something like that, they can be really useful. Yeah,
and there's different types as well. There's ones that can be microchip reading ones, so that only if you've got cats that eat from each other's bowls, you can do it so that they are set just for that cat and will only open for that cat. But yeah, the timed feeders, I know when I've looked after people's cats before and the cat has food throughout the day, for whatever reason, they've set a timed feeder. And if that can be done, that can obviously help you just set that, and you don't then have to worry about feeding the cat if you're stuck in bed. The cat's got the food there. For dogs, that's obviously different, but I would look into getting someone to help you, whether that be dog walker or a friend, family member. It's tricky, but I'd reach out.
There are also a lot of there's quite, I know you mentioned the Cinnamon Trust, but there's also quite often just things locally in people's areas where there's like various volunteer networks and stuff like that to help with not just walking dogs, but coming in and looking in on your pets as well.
Yes, yeah.
There's also a lot of local areas have like time bank services, where you might be able to find support for looking after your pets as well. So that might be, obviously every local area is different, but that might be worth looking into as well.
Time banks are something that I didn't know about until recently, actually. Maybe this year, but they're an amazing thing if you've got one in your area, because you can get all manner of things, not just for pets in that one as well. So I'm kind of going off topic here, but all for your garden, for all different types of stuff that you need. Time banks are brilliant. Let's kind of flip this one now over to the other side of it, really, because we've covered people with arthritis, but what if your pets have arthritis as well, which is something that I know that some people would definitely be interested in. So, I mean, what can people do for their pets if the pet themselves has arthritis?
Yeah, there's plenty that can be done around the house for animals and out the house for animals that have arthritis. If you're able to, I would make adjustments within the home. For animals that have arthritis, they may struggle to get up out of a bed. And obviously wooden and laminate floors are quite slippy. So I would say be mindful of your environment, and if you can, have non-slip flooring, carpets, if not, if you can't do that, then sort of non-slip rugs in the main areas where the dog or cat walk. Raising water bowls and food bowls several inches off the floor, especially if they suffer with neck or spinal pain. There are raised feeding bowls that you can get, or you can just place the bowl on something such as some books or something, just so it makes it easier, the animal's not having to reach their neck right down to the floor to eat and drink. Grooming your pet. As animals become arthritic, especially you notice it in long-haired cats, they're unable to groom as efficiently. It's painful to turn around and groom. You'll find they develop mats around their back end especially, and they're sort of around the back end and under their tummy. So regular grooming will really, really help stop the development of these mats, because they can be painful in themselves, having tight knitted mats on their body. So I'd sort of recommend looking into grooming your pet, and even starting, if you've got a young cat, starting them now so that they're used to being groomed and it's not a big ordeal as they get older. For cats, you can provide wide litter trays with a low lip on one end to allow the cat to step into it easily. A lot of the covered trays can be quite daunting for them, or with the high sides, and they can't always climb in if they're stiff and arthritic. So I'd recommend definitely looking at ones with one end that's low so they can step in easily. The other options are using softer clumping litter over the gritty ones that are hard on their feet, because often that can be quite sore if they're having to stand putting pressure, whilst they're going to the toilet. So it's better to have the litter in the tray. If a cat uses a cat flap, make sure it isn't too high up, and provide them on the outside, provide a step that they can step down onto, so they're not having to jump so far down, because obviously that's painful if they're having to climb up onto things, jump down off things to maintain normal behaviour. It can be painful. So I would provide steps, even like next to the sofa, next to the bed, providing them with like an intermediate step so that it's easier for them to get up and down.
That's something one of our members mentioned on a previous episode of this, actually. Her cat would always jump up and had arthritis. So it was actually for the kitchen counter. So even though she's not supposed to be up there, she's going to do it no matter what. So she had to make sure she
make their life easier. If they, if you notice they stop doing these things like jumping onto the bed, it's a clear sign that there's a reason, and that maybe they are suffering with some pain. Animals don't tell us when they're in pain in the same way that people can. So providing them with extra devices around the house will really help. Padded bedding in a draft-free area, extra padding, so it's, they get a bit more bony, a bit less muscle because of the arthritis, and I think extra bedding will really help. I know when I suffered with my arthritis, the cold made it even worse. So in the winter, providing them with bed away from cold areas, like placing it nearer to a radiator than the door where it's cold, is much nicer for them. I think for dogs, shorter, more frequent walking. It's not the 2-hour walk that you're used to, but when they become arthritic, they can't manage the longer walks. Swimming's good for them. So if they like going to the beach, then by all means, they can go for a swim. But the long walks, chasing balls, that kind of thing should be reduced.
You still find that they all want to do that as well?
Oh, yeah. Some dogs are completely obsessed by chasing the ball and want to play ball. But I would say don't throw a ball high up into the air that they then have to jump up to get it and land on the ground hard. It puts, jolts the joints, and it can hurt. So I would say if your dog still likes the ball, roll it along the floor and don't do it as often. The action where they're running for the ball and they catch it, they do a sudden jolt to stop. And even as young dogs, that's bad for their joints. So I would always recommend, if people throw the ball for their dogs, do not do it repeatedly and obsessively for hours on end. It's just not good for their joints. But as they get older, you don't have to stop that, but it's being mindful of where and how you throw the ball for them.
Save themselves and themselves a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, there's other things that you can do with that dog to provide them with mental stimulation. I certainly know a number of dogs that are completely obsessed by the ball. So it's it's hard to cut that habit sometimes. I think another thing that people can do for their dogs, especially if they're small or sort of medium-sized dogs, if they're out on a walk, is take a dog buggy with them. A lot of people use them so they can still go out to the beach. They can still go out for a long day and take their dog with them, and their dog can then have that rest and be in a buggy if the walk is too long for them. So I think it's something to really consider. You can get them various websites, and they are available quite readily. So I think it's something to consider. If you still want to take your dog out for a long day, there's nothing stopping you. And it means that they still get that enrichment. They still get to enjoy life and get to go out with you for the day without having that pain if they're struggling with a long walk.
I saw a cat in a pram on the train the other day as well. So I'm wondering if that's the same sort of thing.
There's all sorts you'll see out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the purpose of that was, but I mean,
it was an old school pram as well. It was quite interesting, like one of those ones.
Was it harnessed? Was the cat harnessed?
I couldn't quite tell. It was just a cat popping out of this like little pram on the train, and then they got off. I wonder what that cat. So I'm wondering if that's like their cat like travel case or something like that. But
yeah, we see all sorts at the vets. We get cats come in like backpacks and cat carriers and all sorts. So yeah, pram. Maybe they were just off to the vets.
Yeah. If you struggle with your hands or something like that, pushing the pram's a lot easier than carrying it. Like
carrying, that's true. Yeah,
they are cumbersome and awkward to walk around with.
They're heavy.
They are, especially if you've got a big heavy cat like I've got. And that's the other thing to mention is to keep their weight down. I'm guilty of having a slightly overweight cat, and I think it's very important for their joints to keep them trim and keep the weight down. If the animal suffers with arthritis, because it's not good for their joints to be overweight. So.
Exactly the same as with a person then.
Yeah, exactly. That's the first thing a doctor will tell you: go away and lose weight. If you're overweight, they'll tell you to go and lose weight, and that will certainly help with your arthritis. Won't get rid of it, but it will certainly help.
There's that statistic of like for in humans, this is, I guess it would be proportionate to animals. If you were to lose 1 pound of body fat, then it reduces 4 pounds of pressure from your lower limbs. And if you've got 4 lower limbs, then that's especially valuable. Yeah.
It's amazing how sort of little weight can affect you and your joints. So yes, something to consider. It becomes a vicious circle, though. I know when I was suffering with my arthritis, and I'm not an overweight person, but you kind of can exercise less because of the pain. So it's then if you did need to lose weight, it becomes a vicious circle of how do I lose weight if I can't walk as far or run like I used to. So it's diet management, but talk to your vet if you're worried about your pet's weight and need to get weight off them if they're arthritic.
Or your doctor if it's you.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Don't talk to a vet if it's for you.
What about your rabbits, Leah? How do you deal with those? Is it both of them or just the one of them that has arthritis?
No, just one of them. So she's about 7. So I think she's kind of getting a little bit older. And kind of what you said, Catherine, about noticing when they're not able to jump up on things. That's when we realised that she probably had arthritis, because if I was in the room with her and then there's a sofa in there, she would always jump up and come and sit on the sofa with me. And that would just be her little routine. But she did kind of stop doing that, and it was becoming harder for her to jump. She does still sometimes try it, but we're kind of finding ways to kind of, if she does want to come and join me on the sofa, we're thinking about getting a little step put in, but also kind of being on the floor. I'm able to sit on the floor. So for me, that's quite easy, like being in her space rather than kind of thinking, oh gosh, thinking she needs to come up on the sofa, like to kind of save her a little bit. She still gets very excited and wants to join in. But
yeah, they still mentally want to do all those things. For people, it can be quite depressing having arthritis as a person. So, imagine they're not able to do all of those normal activities because of pain and stiffness. And I think that from a veterinary nurse point of view, it's very important to obviously reiterate that you do all these things around the house, but it's very important that you still speak to your vet. There are so many things and treatments and things that can be done for the animal other than just adjusting your home. There's non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, there's injections that can be given monthly for dogs and cats. There's different treatments out there, and it's very important that we don't just accept that old age means they're going to slow up. It's the old age is not a disease. It's very important that we manage pain in these animals and for people. And just don't think, well, this is old age, this is normal. There are lots of ways that you can help your pet in the home and out, and getting them the right treatment. There's physiotherapy, hydrotherapy, same for people. There's different exercises that can be done for your animal that will help with their arthritis. So I would definitely, first line, speak to your vet if you think your animal is arthritic. There's various indicators with pets that they are becoming arthritic. They are stopping doing those normal activities. They are going off their food. Their behavior can change a lot. They can become dogs, cats, they can become aggressive and suddenly snap at you, and they've never done that before, and it's because they're in pain. So it's very important we look for these signs so that we know to get the right treatment for them.
And I must say our vet was very helpful as well. And I think it's just about raising even any, like you said, any concern, it's much better to raise it with them, isn't it? Rather than thinking you're not wasting their time or anything like that.
Yeah. I mean, I having looked after animals for 20 plus years, I've become and having suffered with arthritis myself, I've got a huge soft spot for senior animals and for animals making sure they get the right treatment as they're getting older. And it's not just accepting they're stiff, they're old, it's fine. There are things that can be done to really alleviate their pain and help with their quality of life.
But when it comes to things like the therapies and so on for, like physio and stuff like that, so that all applies for animals, which is really good to know. Where do people go to get that? Is it just the vet, or are there like specific dog chiropractors?
There are specific places that you can go. Sort of first opinion practices, which is what I work in. We don't have like a hydrotherapy pool. We can do physiotherapy. Especially sort of after surgery and things for animals, but it does rely on owners taking them to specific places that will do hydrotherapy for dogs, physiotherapy. You can get acupuncture in some practices. Certainly the practice I've worked in, we've done acupuncture before. If you've got the right vet who's done the training, then acupuncture is a good thing to use for animals who've got arthritis. So yeah, it's reaching out to your vet, finding out where they can get that treatment. Obviously, it's not free like the NHS. We have to appreciate that. For our animals, we have to pay. There's insurance, which is something to consider when you get some pet insurance. Make sure you've got the cover you need, and it's very valuable for when they become older, when they're much more likely to need the extra care.
Yeah, definitely. I remember we had to take my cat to get a few tests done, and wow, I'm glad we had insurance when I saw the bill for how much some of that stuff costs. So
yeah,
definitely. You always worry, you get annoyed like with car insurance, how you never crash your car, and You feel like you're just throwing your money away, but when it does happen, you're
When you need it.
incredibly happy that you have it.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else you wanted to add, Leah?
I just think it's a case of you know your pet, don't you? And you know when things aren't quite right. And I think that's really important to say and like to keep an eye on them rather than think, oh, it might get better tomorrow. It's like similar to what we say for our members. It's like keep like looking at any symptoms and maybe writing it down, or where you think they might be experiencing pain. So I guess it's like applying the same techniques as we say to our members, and that way when it gets to the appointment, you can kind of remember what happened and have a bit more detail.
Yeah, I mean, I'd definitely say, if you are the person that will know your animal, you will notice the changes, but sometimes they are very subtle. It can be very subtle changes that you see over a period of time. I mean, if your pet is vaccinated yearly, you can have these conversations with your vet. But if you do notice significant changes, weight loss, as I mentioned earlier, the mats on the back for cats, reluctance to eat, any changes you see, I would definitely have that conversation with your vet. There are things that they can do to help.
Excellent. That's great. So is there any kind of like, final words of wisdom or advice you would give to anyone, either on either side of it, either someone looking after a pet when you have arthritis or looking after the pet with arthritis?
I would say seek help and advice from friends and family and your doctor or vet if it's your pet, obviously. Talking about it is so important. There are Facebook groups that you can join where you can talk to people who are going through the same thing as you. Often you may live with family members who don't have arthritis. They don't understand. So finding like-minded people who are going through the same thing, talking to your family, making them aware of your limitations, seeking help with your doctor. I think it's just very important to chat and not bottle it all up and just live with the pain. It can be miserable. And I know being in my 40s, I was very active and I suddenly was not able to do a lot of activities with my children. And it was quite depressing, really. So I would just say, talk to people and get help. See, take medication if you need to, and see what therapies are available to you.
That's great. Excellent. And if you would like to find out any more information about arthritis and some of the other things we talked about as well, please do visit our website, which is www.arthritisaction.org.uk. And if you have any questions or any comments or anything at all, please feel free to drop us an email, and you can do that at podcast@arthritisaction.org.uk. Great. So thank you very much, Catherine, for your time. I really appreciate it.
Brilliant. Thank you for having me.
And thank you very much, Leah.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, everybody. Bye-bye.